Happy Sunday, February the 16th, Inside Scoopers. I'm Rodney Habib, and joining me as always, the legendary #1 New York Times best-selling, most followed veterinarian in the entire world. I got to try to improve it every week. The legendary Dr. Karen Becker. Hello, Dr. Becker.
Hello, Rodney, and hello, Inside Scoopers. We are so excited to be spending our Sunday morning with you. We appreciate each and every one of you for being here. A special welcome to our first-time subscribers. If you're catching us live, we're so excited that you are here.
Listen,
Rodney, how you doing?
I forgot to ask you. You wanted me to remind you last week on Skype. Do you have your microphone set this week? Because I'm not sure if your mic.
Well,
tap your mic. Give your mic a little tap for me. Let me see. Nope. See? Last week, Inside Scoopers, during the pet food review, the good doctor forgot to set her microphone on. So we did an entire legendary review using her AirPod microphones. Just what kind of production do we got going on here this week? But as you're looking Inside Scoopers, welcome to everybody. Now, for those of you that are just tuning in, you want to make sure you come into the Inside Scoop group. That's where everything is happening. So from the Planet Paws page on Facebook, you want to click on the Go to Subscriber Hub. From there, visit the subscriber group, and then you are in the 2.0 pet parent community, where you are going to find a whole bunch of tabs to a whole bunch of incredible things like the guide section. Guide section is where you're going to see a whole bunch of the episodes and podcasts that are forever libraried in that group. Also, you are going to find your PDF workbook and your guide section there. So if you need a quick download, we've got some incredible files in there. You want to check those out, from our detox guides to our flea and tick heartworm guides and so on and so forth. All of this is early access for those that are joining, and a lifetime of access for you Inside Scoopers. So make sure you download those. And the fastest way to get to the live episodes is by going on the Planet Paws page and clicking on the live tab. Look at all of the different experts from around the world, over 300 episodes and resources for whatever type of ailment or issue or you name it that you could be looking for. You are going to find it there. Let's hope by the time we've come back now that the good doctor has found her microphone on Skype. Give me a little tap there on the microphone, Karen.
Okay, listen, I want you to know I did set it up twice, and then it just kind of defaults. I think when my computer turns off, I think it defaulted. Anyway, I would like to apologize. Inside Scoopers, you know that tech is not my thing. I just struggle with it, but we appreciate you being patient.
Karen, I accept your apology.
Thank you, Rodney. We have some pretty amazing studies today, and one of my favorite topics, how to use things around the home that you have for common ailments. I have a little table set up. I almost thought about doing this from my kitchen, but I didn't. But it would be, I'm excited to show you things that you probably already have in your home and the ways that you can use them for non-life-threatening ailments for dogs and cats, parrots, birds, lizards, reptiles, and crows, if you're a rehabber.
It's this is a pretty big episode. I mean, everybody, we were going to do this, actually, believe it or not, when I was in Arizona, and we were going to do a Facebook Live on this, and then life happened. I think we got into like a Homer Becker's Bites photo shoot, and then it just got too overwhelming. It got postponed. But look, it's better late than never. Before we jump into today's Dr. Karen Becker's Home Remedies segment that everyone's excited for, we do also have some Science Sunday tips for people as well. Let's just talk about next week, Karen, right away, right off the bat. The most anticipated time of year. My God, these reviews have just been shattering records in terms of viewership. We have the annual Pet Food Review Part 3, freeze-dried and toppers, that's going to be coming up. I can't tell you how excited I am for this episode, and I like this rotation through these experts with different mindsets. I'm really excited about this Sunday's first time Inside Scoop appearance. We went looking for somebody special for this review this week.
We do. We have not a mystery expert. Our mystery shopper is busy collecting information, but our mystery expert is also busy. Our PhD mystery expert, first time appearance on Inside Scoop. So not really mystery, but I agree with you, Rodney. It's so exciting that we are collecting the top experts to be able to give you their unpainted, unvarnished raw, they're all volunteering reviews on some of the most popular products out there. And I think it's really an important time to do this because there's so many new products entering the market already. Sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Yeah. There's so many new products. There's so many companies that are reaching out. There's like, I also like, there's like, this is always a tough one for me every time of the year when we do these reviews. You have friends that you know that you've established relationships, I'd like to call them friends, who are in the space that have created brands that beg you to review their product, right? And I know that they think because there's a friendship there that the guests are going to be somehow biased. Like these scores and everything go in, there's no history talking. The judges and the panel score these, they don't talk to each other. This is all independent. But the amount of people that are reaching out, Dr. Becker, it's crazy. And then you've got the sort of like the actor influencers. I mean that in a respectful manner, like, you know, Rob Lowe and Katherine Heigl, and hopefully I said that right. And a bunch of celebrities who are trying to create better lines of foods that, you know, have been reaching out and, hey, we'd like to have our products reviewed. Now, we don't do this, and we mentioned this last week, we don't select the brands based by the manufacturers who submit them. We base the brands based on our community that requests them, right? And we're also looking at the same time for best sellers. So there's also global statistics and sales numbers that drive, you know, these type of brands. But man, I can't tell you how many people are reaching out and saying, please review our brands.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Rodney. We do not pick the brands. Our community picks the brands, as well as us looking at the top performing brands, the most requested brands for reviews. So this is not Dr. Becker's list. The other thing that I think sometimes people forget is that we have reviewed hundreds of other brands that you can find inside Scoopers up above. And so if you are looking for your particular brand of food that you're feeding, go and look through the reviews that we have already done, because we've got dozens and dozens and dozens of brands that we already have reviews on. So wonderful.
We also have, Marianne's asking a really good question. Will you address whether freeze-dried raw has any risk of bird flu contamination? We're going to. We are assembling inside Scoopers perhaps one of the top animal, would you say pathologist / virologist in the world.
He is.
From my country,
in the world.
From the University of Guelph. You may remember him, Dr. Scott J. Weiss. We brought him on during COVID when the madness was happening globally, worldwide. I remember in places on the other side of the planet where people were throwing their animals out of apartment buildings. It was absolutely a terrible,
and trying to put masks on cats. Do you remember that? Like suffocation issues. It was really bad. So Dr. Weiss has been on previously clarifying myths and misconceptions pertaining to COVID transfer between dogs, cats, and humans. We were very thankful that he was able to, I believe, Rodney, he saved animals' lives by coming on and saying, listen, do not dispose of your dogs and cats because you think you're going to catch COVID from them. And I'm just so thankful. He is going to come on Inside Scoopers and give you the lowdown on highly pathogenic avian influenza. And there's no one more qualified to speak about this topic than Dr. Weiss. So we are excited to present that to you.
We want to bring the world's best. And when you ask who is the world's best, who's the most educated in this current topic and what's happening, you go to the people with these PhDs that this is their life. Right, and he's obviously going to come in and give us his take. Dr. Lodi Kojer says some of the celeb food brands should be careful what they wish for. Rodney, my gosh, amen. Listen, amen to that.
Do you remember like Batman from Batman and Robin? I think Batman released a food.
Robin.
Robin. Sorry, yes, Robin. All these celebs releasing foods, which I don't have a problem with, especially if truly food has made an impactful difference in their life. I think that's wonderful that they want to share their story. I'm a little bit more concerned that maybe they're a talking head for a brand that they really don't know anything about. And I'm not convinced that they even are aware of their own sourcing, manufacturing facilities. I'm just afraid with some of those celeb brands, which we will be discussing in the reviews, people may be a little bit enamored by the celebrity and maybe not as enamored by the raw products the raw materials that the food is going to be reviewed about. So yeah,
shout out to
it'll be good all the way around.
To Gregory Lucas, thank you for doing this last Sunday. Made me order more, evermore, and bring in goodness gracious to my stores. Love you guys. Miss you guys. That's what it's all about. Shout out to Gregory. We miss you as well. This is why we put these together, right? For all the retailers, for all the people around the globe that are listening. Hey, listen, speaking about brands.
I was just going to say, or speaking about side note, Super Zoo, but where were you going?
Zoo.
Nice.
Side note, Inside Scoopers, you guys always get it first. I know we haven't made a public announcement yet. The president, if you guys recall, many years ago, Dr. Karen Becker and board-certified veterinary nutritionist Dr. Donna Radedick gave a record-breaking, sold-out room. People, we shared the pictures here on Inside Scoop. If you go back and you type in Super Zoo and Dr. Becker, it'll come up in the search. You guys set a record at Super Zoo for your talk. You gave a talk at Super Zoo. The room, I remember BC, shout out to BC, who's also an Inside Scooper. He put that together when he was on the board with Super Zoo and had you and a board-certified legend, Dr. Radedick, get up on stage and speak to a not only sold-out stand-up people in the hallway room. They couldn't fit any more people in the room, arguably the biggest room maybe ever for that invite of a room for an event. I'm sure if somebody had thought about it better, they would have brought maybe the biggest hall that they have in that place. That said, it was such a huge move and step for Super Zoo, right? You have for those people that are new that don't know what Super Zoo is, arguably the largest trade show event where you've got every single brand and some of the highest level execs that attend these shows. I'm going to mutilate the statistics because I don't know them. Maybe tens of thousands of people, if I could go and say that, in this private event. It's also private. So when we say tens of thousands, it's not open to the general public. You would need to know somebody. You'd need to know a retailer. People who were not retailers would make friends with the retailers just to get a ticket to have access, or try to access as an influencer through media and so on and so forth. You guys created such an epic event there, and maybe we thought the first and last one ever because of the inspiring topics you had, and you just got another invite.
I appreciate you calling the topic inspiring. It was wildly controversial, but yes, Dr. Donna and I talked about raw food and why it is this fastest growing segment, the fresher food segment being the fastest growing segment, and why we can decrease our fears and increase our knowledge base when it comes to educating independent pet stores as well as big box stores about the benefits of commercially available fresher food products. And you can always tell the ultra processed food manufacturers because they'll sit in the back of the room.
It's the worst.
And then lean over and talk to their buddy halfway through the lecture. Yeah, you can always tell. Yeah, it is the worst. Anyway, Inside Scoopers, Ronnie and I will be back this year at Super Zoo. We will be having an Inside Scooper party in Las Vegas. So if you happen to be going to Super Zoo because you are a retailer or a manufacturer and an Inside Scooper, yay, we're doing round 2 of getting together and having fun. And if you are not attending Super Zoo but still want to come to the Inside Scoop party, of course you can, but more details on that later.
Shout out also to the president of the World Pet Association, the WPA, Lauren Groh, for...
a president of education. She's a president of the educational committee. I don't know if she's...
I thought she was the president of the WPA. I remember seeing her name tag saying, oh my gosh, it said president of the...
Maybe she is.
And if I got that wrong, Lauren, she's an Inside Scooper.
Yep, clarify your title.
But shout out to her for making those moves and connecting the dots with supers. Can you imagine Rodney Habib and Karen Becker on stage at the biggest, arguably the biggest trade show event in the entire world? Boy, oh boy. Pull up your socks, Becker. This is going to be
We will have some things to say, won't we?
It's going to be fun. All right. Okay. That's what people are here for, some science.
All right.
Today. Everybody's here for your remedy ideas and so on and so forth. So without further ado, did my camera just blank? Of all the cameras that could be lost, is it my camera that just got lost?
Your camera's gone.
This is so awesome. I've never in the history. There we go. I'm back. It's usually always it's never my camera that conks out. Hopefully I haven't overheated the bugger. Okay. That's it. let's get this. We're already clunky and gosh. It is time for Science Talk headlines of the week. Listen, this is my favorite show ever. If you're new to the channel, Becker tried to cancel this segment, but you, the people, spoke and kept it going.
That is a non-truth, Habib. That's a non-truth. I did not try and cancel Science Talk. I tried to cancel the creepy hand about what's in your cupboard because it was flipping creepy. I like the what's in your cupboard concept. I don't like the creepy hand. Like, you know, I have nightmares about that stuff in the wee hours.
That's what's in your cupboard. Okay, look, there's no hand here. There's no hand. It's me and a mustache right there. There I am with my, that's a fantastic mustache. You know how long it took to grow that mustache? And to get Shubi to hold still? Like, look how I'm holding her. Look how well behaved she is. She's not even moving.
I know darn well that you spent all week collecting studies. I want to know what that first study is. Let's break it out because I got some things to say about it. You sent it to me and I flipped out on you. So let's go ahead and take a look.
All right, Inside Scoopers. Let me tell you, I saved the best to go first. Arguably, in my opinion, this study came out. It has made headlines. The New York Times, all over it. Scientific America, all over it.
Scientific American. Rodney sent me 7 articles. Inside Scoopers. So I texted him back. I said, "Do not."
I was so excited.
Send me another article about
you were so
this
angry.
topic. Do not.
You were so angry about this.
I was so angry.
Let me tell you, this one almost got cut. I shared this with the good doctor, and I was like, I am so excited to share this first study with the Inside Scoopers. And
nope.
I mean, it's probably, it would be safe to say you threatened me. Somewhat. Like if my mother heard it, it would have been a threat.
I shut you down. Inside Scoopers, we'll vote. Rodney will present the study, and then we'll vote. Inside Scoopers, if you were like me and you're like, this study, if this study gets publicized, and in any way pet parents take it as they have to cook their eggs this way.
No, you're ruining it.
The ultimate take-home message is people like, forget it. I can't do anything right. I'll just feed old Roy. That's my fear. Okay, Rodney, go.
All right.
Set it up.
Inside Scoopers. This one is for you because I haven't even gone public with this. This is for you guys. You know how I feel about eggs?
You only have 2 minutes.
Nature's multi.
I hate this study so much. I'm giving you 2 minutes, and then we're gonna have to move along.
The Italians, the scientists from Italy, have figured out how to cook. Finally, to answer the questions, what is the best way to prepare an egg for you or your dog or your cat in the most nutritious manner in the world? All right. So this has always been the biggest question in the world. And in the Forever Dog book, let me just go to the book right here. This was so important that I had to put it in the Forever Dog.
I just upped my game by introducing Lion's Mane Focus Capsules by Mushroom Revival. It's a quick and easy way to give myself that extra edge that I need throughout the day. The capsules are made with 100% mushroom fruit bodies, and it's easy as just taking 2 capsules with my morning coffee. It improves my focus.
And at that time, Dr. Becker, when you and I did this, research shows that the soft-boiled egg would be ideally the best way to be prepared. Now, they can be fed in any manner, and if you're just looking for the least amount of heat, so we know that the more heat that's applied to the egg, the more damaged. Oh God, this is for my setup, right? Because I'm setting this up. Because you can see I'm setting the stage. Look at Blair in there. You got look at everybody. Okay, Renee's like, show me the study. All right. So, if I said to you today that the Italians have figured out the most ideal way to prepare an egg, this was published in Nature, in the most prestigious journal in the entire world, in the Cadillac of journals.
Sarah says, just so we're aware, I cannot soft boil an egg to save my life. Sarah, just wait. It gets far, far, far worse than soft boiling. This is your egg nightmare come true. Okay, keep going.
Look how you're trying to color the audience angry before I even present the information. But
Inside Scoopers, this is the most. Some Italians have a little bit too much time on their hands. That they go ahead. I am so overwhelmed by this study.
So the scientists figure out, the Italian scientists, shout out to Italy and our Italian Inside Scoopers. They have figured out the way, Dr. Becker, to prepare an egg. What they know in science is that the white part of the egg, which requires a different temperature then the center, the yolk, requires a different temperature. But how on earth, when you go to cook it, can you, aside from separating them, because chefs have done that, they have stripped the white egg whites out and the yolk out and cooked them differently, but that takes a long time. Scientists has figured out a way to cook at the same time without having to separate the egg and create the most nutrient dense polyphenol high egg in the entire world.
Wait for it. He's ramping up. Okay. Rodney, how do you cook the most nutrient dense polyphenol egg in the whole world? Tell us, please tell us, because it's so flipping out of control.
Okay. Here it is, Inside Scoopers.
Here we go.
Okay, so according to scientists, they have figured out a two-cook method. So here you see, let me just pause this so I can catch up with my speech. Here you can see on this side where I'm pointing to, the scientists have set a temperature. So bring your water to a boiling point. So there, and there's a specific temperature. We're going to post the link. There's Renee right there. She's posted the link to the study. So
yeah, and there's Sarah saying this is the longest intro ever. Rodney, get going.
And then on the other side is a somewhat room temperature bowl of water, kind of like lukewarm, 30 degrees Celsius. I know that like 21 is supposed to be room temperature, so a little bit higher, but lukewarm water.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to take a little nap.
Listen, I'm trying to do this as quick as I can. This is science, Karen. Okay. Shout out to Andrea. Go right and go. So what the scientists are saying here is you would boil the eggs for 2 minutes. From there, you would remove the eggs once you reach the 2-minute mark, so you can see the little stopper there. At the 2-minute mark, you would remove the eggs from the boiling hot water, and then you put them in the, let's say, room temperature, lukewarm water for another 2 minutes. I know this is the part that's going to piss the good doctor off. You've got to do it 8 times. That's the only problem. 2 minutes in boiling water, 2 minutes at room temperature for 32 minutes. And according to scientists, you create the most nutritious egg known to man, which is labeled now the periodic egg. There it is. You get this creamy texture in the middle. So the yolk is almost like butter, spreading it on toast. And if you put it under a microscope and you analyze it, it is the way that we know now today, without any new research, maybe it could be studies 10 years from now, this is the most nutritious way, according to science, on how to prepare.
And Jewel says it right. Too much work. OMG. Are you kidding me? Inside Scoopers, Eileen says not happening. 8 times, a lot of cry laughing faces. The fact that someone has the confidence to publish a study suggesting humans are going to cook eggs for 2 minutes with a stopwatch 8 times for 32 minutes. Okay, I do like Lauren says you might become a superhero after you do this. Maybe you could do it once to see if it is the most delicious egg ever on the planet. But the truth is, even suggesting that people should regularly do this, people say, forget it, I just won't eat eggs. And that's the point that I was nervous about Rodney saying, we have a brand new way that we should cook eggs. You should get your stopwatch out and time it every 2 minutes and do it 8 times for 32 minutes. People are saying, forget it, we just won't cook eggs. Not a chance is exactly what Nicole says. I'm right there with you, Nicole. Not a chance. So this is a completely ineffective study, and Rodney loves the science.
Inside Scoopers, if you do have the time, I know everybody might be a little bit angry about this, but if you do have the time, please, if you have 32 minutes in your day to create the most ideal egg for you, a family member, or your pets, share it in the Inside Scoop and tell us what you think and tell us how it tastes. Okay, moving on to the next study. How about this? This is maybe my favorite. Long-term, so this is a study that just came out Inside Scoopers and Science Daily, the most clicked of the week. Long-term yogurt consumption tied to a decrease in the incidence of certain types of colorectal cancer. So, I mean, we've been seeing so much research lately come out, Dr. Becker, pertaining to the benefits of yogurt and why it should be a staple maybe in all of our diets if granted, you've got the microbiome for it. Meaning you're not bothered by any type of these foods. Science shows, and this was a massive study that was conducted on such a large cohort of people, talking about the benefits of yogurt in human research. Now, there is a new study that came out to dogs. I'll jump to that in a quick second. That just fits hand in hand with that study.
And plain yogurt, Rodney, is something that pet parents have been using a dollop on their dog or kitties, if they'll eat it, their food for years. And it's a really wonderful way to offer some food-based probiotics and beneficial bacteria. The most important thing, Rodney, to think about, though, especially in the U.S., is the fact that when you go to the traditional grocery store and you flip over a container of yogurt, it really should just have like a few ingredients. When you start getting into like the list of Yoplait yogurt and you can't pronounce half of those ingredients, and the second, third, and fourth ingredients is some derivative of sugar, it's really not even considered yogurt at this point. It's a high fructose sugar treat. It's almost like a dessert. So I just want to clarify that when we're talking about yogurt specifically for pets, Rodney, it's plain, meaning unflavored, and it also preferably would be made out of organic dairy and with minimal additives. And so flip over the label and just try and get the smallest ingredient label. Your mama makes homemade yogurt. That would be the very best thing you can do.
Yeah. There is research. We posted it. We talked about it last year, where I believe it was in Turkey. I believe it was in India, where they just did a plain yogurt study on dogs, and we shared it. It's in this group showing the benefits to the microbiome. But here's what's super cool. Just recently, a study posted in Taylor and Francis journals, effects of kefir addition on apparent digestibility of dry food, complete food, fecal characteristics, and blood parameters of healthy dogs. This was pretty awesome. This was I believe a 30-day study, if I'm not mistaken, on dogs given kefir, and scientists wanted to see how, I believe the dog, 21 adult golden retrievers. Check out the conclusion to the study here. Dogs fed kefir for 30 days. The kefir addition showed positive effects on intestinal health, such as increasing the digestibility of nutrients, reducing ammonia levels in feces, increasing volatile fatty acids, and improved fecal scores in dogs. In addition, decreased serum cholesterol and creatinine values of dogs supplemented with kefir indicated that kefir also has the potential as a health supporting supplement. Based on the results, 2 to 4 grams of kefir can be supplemented to a dog's diet. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. We talked last year about a study in just 2 weeks of supplementing dogs with kefir. It improved the microbiome and the overall health of dogs and cats.
Now, I think people's biggest hang-ups, Rodney, at least in the U.S., are that plain organic kefir is expensive. I will tell you, Inside Scoopers, and we've gone over this before in other episodes, I make it myself. You can make kefir for a fraction of the price. We actually are in Fountain Hills, Arizona. We are blessed to be able to have a store that sells raw milk. And so I'm able to get raw goat's milk and A2 Jersey cow raw dairy, raw cow's milk. So I can do homemade kefir, which is a fraction of the cost of buying commercially available organic kefir. And again, it just has one ingredient. You can buy kefir Mother Etsy. You can check out your local co-ops or health food stores and ask about where to go to get a kefir mom. It's a really cheap, easy way to diversify your pet's microbiome. If by chance, most animals are not sensitive to dairy, Rodney. Most animals do fine with dairy. If you do have dairy sensitivities, you can also consider coconut kefir.
Yeah, and according to the researchers, they were saying 2 to 4 grams. I mean, we're talking here a teaspoon. But there's been other studies on its dosages. I know that we've made recommendations in the Forever Dog where we talked about doing a tablespoon for every 10 pounds of body weight. Here's kind of like a recommended minimum daily intake inside Scoopers pertaining to how much if you were going to add kefir to your animal's diet. But I'll tell you, in those studies, in the Turkish studies that they did for dogs on that 14-day sort of, let's say, gut cleanse where the improved microbiome happened, they were giving dogs 3/4 of a cup of kefir a day.
Yeah, a large amount.
Yeah, in other words, what's a tablespoon? Like, it's hardly anything. I know to some people, a tablespoon might seem like a lot. 3/4 of a cup to dogs. And for cats, almost half a cup a day for cats. So it goes to show you, if you're worried about, bringing in a teaspoon to sort of introduce it to your animal, you shouldn't be afraid.
And it does a great thing. Like it's great to freeze on lick mats. There's a bunch of ways you can use kefir and yogurt for enrichment. You can stuff it in Kongs, freeze it. So using some of these probiotic, beneficial substances that help build and diversify the microbiome, Rodney, it can be done just as a dollop on the food, as a food topper, but also a really great way to be able to provide enrichment as well.
Yes, and Irma says, what about goat milk? Look, goat milk is fantastic, but in terms of bacteria, nothing comes close to comparing to kefir. So I know most people, when they go, I did a on the Forever Dog Life, we did a Facebook Live on kefir, Irma. So if you have the opportunity, or Inside Scoopers, we'll share it here, where we go into really big depth pertaining to kefir and everything you want to know about kefir. But goat milk is fantastic, but in terms of strains of bacteria and colony forming units, go ahead.
But you can do goat milk kefir,
yes, you
right?
Can.
You can do goat's milk kefir,
yes,
and then now you're like big party, big beneficial probiotic love in the gut.
And there's a difference between goat milk kefir and goat milk, right? So two different things.
Yeah, of course.
Also, the other thing you got to be careful of is the freezing. So we also talked about that. Just a side note caveat: when you are buying these products, especially, I know a lot of pet stores will carry a lot of these frozen. We also shared in that Facebook Live, on a weekly basis, how much bacteria dies off when it's frozen. So it's always good to get it fresh if you can support your local farmers market. Kefir in general, like coconut-based kefir, plant-based kefirs, high in bacterial count and a long shelf life, a really long shelf life. Coconut kefir can have up to a 1-year shelf life on it. So there's no urgency to have to freeze it, and you get all of that incredible bacteria from the goat milk.
Wonderful.
All right.
Really good. My coconut kefir looks different than yours. Mine is kind of yellowy orange and lovely, but it's just organic coconut water and kefir grains. And if you have an animal or you yourself are sensitive to dairy, even goat dairy, you can consider coconut water kefir because it provides those beneficial short-chain fatty acids, a really nice diversity of probiotic strains, but it's also dairy-free. So
Julie says freezing doesn't kill the prebiotics
options for
in kefir or yogurt. Actually, both, Julie. So we presented the study that was done. There was multiple studies that were done. I believe also one was done by the USDA in the United States, showing what happens to bacteria in goat milk, even in regular milk, when you try to culture it and get bacteria in it. When you freeze it, it's not all gone, but on a weekly basis, it starts to degrade. So week by week, the CFU count gets lower and lower and lower. And I mean, logically, bacteria was alive, and freezing it can only hold on for so long. So go back to the kefir. Hopefully the admins find it. If not, I'll reshare the live in this comment section. All right, well, that's the end of our science tips. Hopefully everyone's making periodic eggs today. And this is a great, I go back and read the comments. This is a great segue into some incredible home remedies, Dr. Becker. Things that people should have in their pantry. You never know when you're in situations. As an example, diarrhea being such a massive issue nowadays for so many people.
Yep.
And I think there's there's a subset of people that metronidazole is the only answer, right? You got to go in, you got to pick up some low dose antibiotics, you got to give it to your pet. But there's some powerful nutrition-based foods, whole foods, and some supplements that can be used that you can have in your home that are backed by a lot of science, some incredible studies. I know the American Veterinary Medical Association recently posted, and we'll get to that soon enough, on psyllium husk and the benefits that some veterinarians might have recommending psyllium husk over like a metronidazole. So we've got a bunch of examples today that excited to share with pet parents. Shout out to Fausto. That we want to share.
But to start for diarrhea, Rodney, one of my favorite things in the whole world is charcoal, activated charcoal. You can buy it at the health food store, you can buy it on Amazon, you can probably buy it at Walmart. Charcoal is made from coconut shells or peat or wood that has been heated at high temperatures. You comes in capsules, tablets, and liquids if you wish. And the heating process, Rodney, makes it more porous. And this porosity increases the surface area of the charcoal and makes it really potent for adsorbent, adsorbent, which means this incredible surface area allows for when dogs or cats are fed charcoal, that it binds up toxins or irritants in the GI tract, and it is really beneficial. In fact, it's so beneficial for diarrhea that my recommendation, when you see under the diarrhea, it says 1 gram for 10 pounds of body weight and redose after each bowel movement. It's potent enough, Rodney, that if you just kind of go gangbusters and continue giving it, you can actually swing animals into constipation. So you'll read online some risks of using activated charcoal. One of the risks is you can swing from blowout watery diarrhea to constipation. If you continue dosing, it does such an amazing job of sucking up extra moisture and liquids in the GI tract, which means basically reducing the likelihood that diarrhea is going to happen again, but it can be so effective that you can swing to constipation. So I love having activated charcoal on hand. And it's something that when I was back in vet school, you couldn't buy activated charcoal over the counter. You had to go to your veterinarian and get it. It's so wonderful now. Do you know, Rodney, who kind of introduced me to taking a bunch of activated charcoal, who carries it around with him all the time, was Dave Asprey. Yes. Do you remember he said if you ever go out to eat, always bring activated charcoal, because undoubtedly you're probably going to have a little indigestion, a little bloating, maybe some GI upset, a lot of, just when you go out and eat foods that are conventionally raised, maybe deep fried, maybe not organic, you're probably going to have some GI upset. He carries activated charcoal with him all the time. And I have found it's one of those things that amazing for nausea, amazing for intermittent loose stools. But if you have like that blowout, or your dog gets into garbage, charcoal. If your dog eats a bunch of gets into the grill grease trap on the back of you go outside and your dog's eating the grease trap, activated charcoal. It is really amazing. If your dog eats prescription medications, like if your dog gets into acetaminophen or Tylenol, automatically you can get that. Now, should you still call poison control? Sure. Should you still call your veterinarian? Yes, of course. But it is amazing for like if Homie were to, God forbid, get into chocolate or grapes or onions, if my kitty were to eat a toxic plant, or if they get into moldy foods, really the very best treatment that we have in veterinary medicine is activated charcoal. Now, Rodney, there's a few cases where activated charcoal doesn't work. Activated charcoal does not neutralize caustic substances. So if your animal drinks bleach or gasoline or anything that's really alkaline or acid, charcoal is not what you're going to reach for. You need to call poison control. They'll walk you through whatever the substance is that your animal ate. Charcoal also doesn't bind alcohol, heavy metals, or xylitol. But for things around the house, like if your dog or kitty's getting into medications, getting into a house plant, eating some crap in the backyard, rips open the garbage, has blowout diarrhea, that is the time for activated charcoal. Now, the only time I don't give it in addition to, the caustic substances, alcohol, heavy metals, is if your animal's already is puking, Rodney. So if you have a vomiting animal, don't try and shove charcoal down them. But all other instances, it is miraculous. Have you used charcoal in your house?
You know what? It's fantastic with my little Shuby. So sometimes I notice she can, I've talked about this before, little tiny mix of awesomeness. I think it was like 10% husky in her, and science can't figure out 60% unknown as she comes from up north. But resembles like a tiny husky. If you see her, she loves to bury her foods in the yard, right? So she won't, Shuby might eat like 3 days a week if I'm lucky. Most of the meals are buried in the yard, and then she'll dig them up and she'll eat them. And I've been told that I might have some birds that might be flying around my house and stuff like that. And so I know that sometimes Shuby can go burying under a bird feeder, which isn't the most ideal or awesome thing to do, dig up a food, eat it, and then literally I can hear her stomach from like 2 levels throughout the house, right? That's when I know that she's buried something under the darn bird feeder, which I'm trying to get her to stop doing. In saying that, activated charcoal.
Julie says,
I was good. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Julie was just saying, what about pesticides, herbicides? Yeah, because you really don't know. I know you're not putting pesticides, herbicides on your
Absolutely
yard,
not.
but if animals have exposure to pesticide, herbicides, activated charcoal is absolutely something you should go for. And little Shuby, who buries her food and then goes out, and it probably is rotten and disgusting, but also maybe at this point has a really high bacterial count that maybe is a little too much for her. You use activated charcoal, you can get her loose stools under control pretty quickly.
Yeah,
right?
it's let me tell you, it's just fantastic. As you said, when we went to Vancouver, Victoria Island to visit Dave Asprey, the biohacker, when we were filming the dog cancer series, he was like ecstatic about activated charcoal and the benefits of activated charcoal. And I'll use a capsule on Shuby, and then man, it's fast. 15 to 20 minutes, and then she's feeling great again, and she's up and moving around. So activated charcoal, I think, is like a must-have in so many people's homes. I have them like you. I have them in capsules here. They're always in the jar, and they're, if I need them, if I'm in an emergency situation, always awesome to have on hand.
And for kitties, you can open a capsule and you can just mix it in with a little bit of food. Callie drinks broth, so if she has loose stools, which has been very, very rare, but when she also wants to eat stuff outside, and I have a ton of plants, if she has loose poop, I just mix it in with some broth. Now, does it turn the food black? Yes. And does it turn your dog or cat's poop black? Yes. So after you administer charcoal and you see black poo, don't freak out and think it's digested blood. It's that incredibly potent, porous substance that you have fed that's black coming out the other end still black. So don't panic about the color of the poop.
All right.
Pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing. Okay.
All right. Next up is pumpkin. No, I'm sorry, psyllium husk. Let's do psyllium.
Let me tell you, this is like my favorite.
Yes.
I can't tell you how much I love this. Would you call it a food? I suppose it is like
fiber.
It would fall, I guess it would fall into the food category. I was trying to find the most ideal word for it, aka for the boomers that are listening, Metamucil. I know that was a really big term back in the day when my dad, and I'm sure his dad and his dad, they'd come out and say, I had a really fantastic poop today. I had my Metamucil. So psyllium husk, who knew how incredible this is? I had posted, this is a study here that was done on police working dogs and diarrhea, and how impactful, Dr. Becker, psyllium husk was when introduced. There's also the other study, which is my favorite study, and I only got to put one here, which is the AVMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association, just a couple of years ago, posting about the benefit when it came to diarrhea. And that obviously, if we're not talking about like pathogenic diarrhea, like my dog got into like terrible, some sort of virus, but just like an acute bout, that they preferred using psyllium husk over metronidazole.
And I love that. And now we have some research to demonstrate that psyllium husk is a little bit like slippery elm. Inside Scoopers, everyone knows my love I have for slippery elm. Psyllium husk functions in that same way, Rodney, where it's a bowel balancer. So you can get powder. This is just plain organic psyllium husk. It is what's in Metamucil, but I don't like using Metamucil for pets because Metamucil has like this orange or whatever. You can get a multitude of different flavors, but I believe that there's some Metamucil flavors that actually are sugar-free that contain like xylitol and things that could be really harmful for animals. It's also hard to get dogs and cats to want to eat orange or citrus flavored stuff. So I recommend just getting plain old organic psyllium husk powder. Put it right on. You can mix it with water if you want and create kind of a slurry, and many animals will just lap it up. You can mix it with bone broth if you want, and kitties will take it fine. I do give psyllium husk to Callie to prevent hairballs, and so it's a great way to help normalize, to help gum up things that are in the GI tract, including excessive hair, and just push everything along while creating improvements in the microbiome, according to research. So psyllium husk is something that you may have in the form of Metamucil for your two-legged family members. Using organic, unflavored psyllium is what I recommend for pets.
Let me tell you, psyllium husk is a major tool in microbiology. So the good folks over at Animal Biome, Dr. Holly Gantz and Carlton, her husband, who have been on the Inside Scoop multiple times, when you look at some of those reports and you have an off-balance microbiome, a microbiome that's like desperately in need of prebiotic or a form of inulin, they are always recommending psyllium husk. It's used in certain states where you have an overabundance of a specific type of bacteria that's growing in an animal. Let's say you've gotten your dog's microbiome tested and you have like something that's terribly off in the microbiome, a subset of bacteria that's gone above the healthy state and now into like a high increased pathogenic. It's causing chaos within the microbiome. It's
or small intestinal
bacteria overgrowth. Yes. When you look inside Scoopers, if you've done an animal biome report and you look at the microbiome, you would be shocked to see how many times psyllium husk is requested to introduce into your dog or cat's bowl to rebalance the microbiome, or in another case, in a total upside down situation, when you don't have any bacteria or hardly any bacterial growth in a specific bacteria that you need ever so badly for your pet to thrive, psyllium husk is like a rescue where it comes in and it helps regrow and rebalance a microbiome. So, I mean, this is just such a fantastic, let's just say, whole food, or you know, I know it falls into the fiber realms, to have in your pantry for so many reasons. But for diarrhea,
many reasons.
Like, this is an unbelievable tool. And we have published research. Like I said, the American Veterinary Medical Association, just type that in Google Scholar and type the word psyllium husk and read the studies that are posted on it. I mean, in the vet space, there's a huge sort of adoring and love pertaining to this weird word psyllium husk, which, by the way, you can find in your regular grocery store. I've gone into, like, here in Canada, the Superstore on the bottom section. It just sits there. You don't really see many people like grabbing it unless they have like maybe a stool issue where they want to bind up the stool because they got a runny stool. But it could be used for so many other things, like just putting a sprinkle every day on top of your dog or cat's bowl can help the microbiome out immensely.
One of the things I have found specifically with cats, Rodney, is many kitties have a little bit of functional constipation, which means, or obstipation, which means when they go poop, the poo is small pieces of segmented, like 2 or 3 little small, maybe dime-sized chunks of poo. It's not that long, beautiful poo that should be fully functional and passed out in one piece. So when Callie starts to have segmented small poops, that is when I know it's time for a round of psyllium. And so I add a capsule, I open up a psyllium capsule, add it into her broth, and within that next bowel movement is that whole beautiful, usually hair-filled poo. So if you have kitties that are not fully evacuating their colon, Roddy, this is really nature's best remedy. And the beautiful part is it's really bland. Cats don't mind it being mixed. You can put it on dry food, canned food, wet food, homemade food, raw food. You can mix it in. One tip I'll give is if you mix it in and let the food sit, psyllium does form this mucinogenic substance. It does become a little, not rubbery, but a little thicker and goopy. It can be used as a thickening agent if you cook. That can be a blessing or a curse. So what I would tell you is if you're making homemade food, or if you're splitting up canned food, and then going to give half a can today and half a can tomorrow, don't mix the psyllium in today, because tomorrow you're going to see that canned food have a whole different thick jelly-like consistency, and your cats could be like, ew, no. But if you add it at the time of feeding, right before your animal consumes it, amazing to use in terms of helping to diversify the microbiome as well and get consistently good poops. Whether your animal slightly constipated, slightly loose poop, this is nature's bowel balancer, and it does such a nice job. And I'm so thankful that we have studies now to demonstrate that.
And it's so darn cheap, right? Like, it can be bought anywhere, almost found anywhere. It can come in a supplement form, like there it is there. I've seen it encapsulated. It is such a sort of cheap, effective food component. And I think it can be almost sourced anywhere. You can almost pick it up anywhere, and it can be bought organically. I know that. So if you are a stickler like myself, finding it organically would also help as well. So there it is.
Oh, good, Blair. I'm so glad. My grandcat Jake was struggling with this segmented. My grandkitty was not fully evacuating his bowels, and so I had Danielle put psyllium on his food, and Blair has a poo report. This is great. He's got long, gorgeous poos. That's exactly what we want to hear. Those small, little hard poops. Kitties, it's kind of sad. We assume that that's just normal for them, and it is not. It's also not normal for humans. If you're just pooping tiny amounts at a time, little teeny tiny poops, you probably have obstipation, and you should take a tablespoon of psyllium too. Everyone, give psyllium for everyone.
Right. Okay, that was a lot of love for psyllium, FYI.
A lot of love for psyllium. But up next is also a functional food. Woohoo! Canned pumpkin. You can do Libby's solid packed pumpkin. These are two different types of organic pumpkin that I bought at the grocery store. The key with pumpkin is that you can take fresh, like after Thanksgiving, in the fall, Halloween, Thanksgiving, you can take edible pumpkins, make your own, steam it, and make your own. If you're buying pumpkin, you just want to make sure that it's not pumpkin pie filling. It's just 100% pure pumpkin. Pumpkin has this incredible bowel balancing effect as well, and it is a whole food. Animals like the taste of it, and it does a really nice job of also helping to diversify the microbiome.
This is a really big one in like the greyhound world. I remember in the olden days, people like greyhound forums. Forums where animals come here in Canada when greyhounds are rescued and they make their way here, whether it's the stress of transport, obviously the stress of a new environment, stress of a new household, all of those things, and I'm sure a lot more go into it. The staple always seems to be pumpkin. Every time you go into those darn group forums, anytime somebody has a bout of stress diarrhea or whatever the case may be, pumpkin is absolutely everywhere. What I've noticed a lot too, Karen, is that people use it as like a staple ingredient, like long term, where it's like it's mandatory in the diet, meaning I make my recipe, it has to have pumpkin in it. It is probably the most universal food, I would say arguably, that I've ever seen. If you took 100,000 pet parents and you found a food that they're not afraid to put in the bowl, because normally if you have folks that are feeding ultra processed food, they don't typically like to go to anything that would be a whole food component. Pumpkin always seems to be the safest. And you want to know something crazy? There's not a lot of research on it. I went scouring into the journals.
I know.
The journals looking for research.
There's not a whole lot of research on whole food therapy. There just isn't. Yeah, it's just a whole food therapy. Now, Rodney, Chris bought organic powdered pumpkin. Have you seen these now kind of pet-specific powdered supplements that are becoming quite popular on the market? It's kind of doggy pumpkin or kitty pumpkin. And those are fine, Chris, to use. The difference is that whole food matrix it's processed, right? That whole food matrix has been broken down, including the fiber pieces. The fiber is smaller amounts because the pumpkin has been dehydrated, freeze-dried, or gently baked to be able to get the moisture out of it so that we can turn it into a powder. And then it's pulverized. And so the fiber pieces are much smaller. That's not bad, but I do think that dried pumpkin might have one or two extra heat steps. And I've not personally used the powdered pumpkin. I'd be interested to see, Chris, if you see a change in bowel consistency using a powdered pumpkin product versus a fresh canned or freshly steamed product. I would assume that you would.
This is a great conversation. You've got to remember this question for when the next time the microbiologists from Animal Biome come on here, because I know in their bacterial phages that they make for dogs with E. coli, the Pre4 Pro that they use, they mix it with organic pumpkin powder. Now, I think maybe that's because of flavoring, because you have to add it onto the pet food. But you hit the nail on the head there, and their great expression they use all the time. Look at me saying it. You hit the nail on the head there when you bring up powder versus sort of like a processed or fresh component. Because once you go to canned, arguably you fall in culinary process, right? There's that, which doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it needs an extra step to make its way into the can. Or if you're doing fresh, we know that in studies pertaining to cancer, when you look at the Purdue University, remember when they did the adding cruciferous vegetables or colorful vegetables to a bowl of kibble 3 times a week reduced the incidence of bladder cancer anywhere between like 70 to high 80s percentile wise in the reduction of bladder cancer when they were doing the work on bladder cancer on Scottish Terriers. They turned around and they used powdered supplements. So they used powdered broccoli, right? I don't know if they use powdered pumpkin, which would be really fascinating to go back and look at that study, but there's no benefit. It's not saying that you're not going to get any benefits in terms of vitamins and minerals and so on and so forth. There are things that are going to survive the powdered process, but that fibrous effect that they were looking for, potentially the fibrous effect that helped with the reduction of cancer, maybe what it was doing to the microbiome, the process of gluconeogenesis, whatever the case may be, there was more benefit when you used whole food versus powder.
Oh, so I'm interested to see if any instant scoopers, if any of you have used powdered pumpkin, chime in and let us know what you're thinking. My gut would say, because canned or fresh products, it's very moisture dense, Rodney. It's thick, right? And there's a lot of water in pumpkin. When that water is removed, just adding pumpkin powder, I think it would have an extra firming way to help improve loose stools, because we're not adding any water. We're just adding the powdered pumpkin, unless, Chris, you're reconstituting it, adding water back in. But something to think about. I think that powder, certainly on the go, traveling, if you have an IBD dog and pumpkin has been your saving grace, and you're going camping or you're moving around and cans are just not convenient, powdered pumpkin, I think, would be an acceptable alternative. But interested to see what people say about stool consistency between a fresh product and a powdered product.
I've also been seeing
sure.
freeze-dried pumpkin now as well make its way into the pet space. Strips of freeze-drying pumpkin as well, but probably god-awful expensive in terms of
Yep.
finances.
Nikki says, are all these good gut balancers good for colitis? Yes, Nikki, but just like us, finding that perfect blend of how much for your specific animal is something that is important. Rodney's looking at
the
birds
raven.
right
It's
now.
The raven. Like the raven is like sitting on the fence.
Whenever you see Rodney do this,
I swear to God, it's the raven.
So that's, if you want to go throw a chunk of heart to him, I know that you want to, and you can do that. I do think, okay, I like this Inside Scoopers. I will also say Rodney's raven, sits on Clara's roof, the house behind him, and makes the most adorable cooing sounds. Oh, he's huge too. He's so beautiful. Is he making adorable sounds to you?
Yeah, and I have beef heart sliced up for him. Right. Listen, you talk. I'm gonna grab him some beef heart.
Okay, there we go. It's at Scoopers. He can't not feed the raven, which is fine. He's going to go feed his raven beef heart. I will say that back to the question about, are all of these good for bowel balancers? Yes. However, you undoubtedly will find certain products will work better for your specific animals. So in my life, when Homer has looser stools, he's a slippery elm boy. His stools firm up the fastest with slippery elm. If he has all out watery blowout explosive diarrhea, 1 charcoal pill, he's good to go. 2 charcoal pills put him into constipation. So that whole feeding or nourishing or treating the animal in front of you means that the animals in your home, you will have some idea of, okay, I might do half psyllium, half slippery elm. And someone had a question about butternut squash. Absolutely fine. If you can't find fresh pumpkins, like right now, it's nearly impossible, you totally can use other members of the squash family with similar effects, undoubtedly. Or you could try the powdered pumpkin process. Did he come and get his beef heart? Michelle Frank says, you're the best, Rodney. Okay, hopefully try and get a video. It's amazing. Rodney's raven is like the size of a pterodactyl, and he comes out in the backyard, and usually there's like 3 feet of snow, so the beef heart falls into the snow, and then the raven has to go into the snow and get it, and then he comes out victorious like a phoenix coming out of the ground. It's amazing. I want you to kind of get it on video. Right. Beautiful.
Okay, we're on to the next one.
Okay, so yes, on to the next one.
All right, up next,
ginger.
One of my favorite herbs
so
in the
good.
entire world, man.
Why do you like ginger so much?
My gosh, I think I love it when pertaining to the research, how factorial it is, right? It seems like it's in the pet space, I know it's used a lot for nausea, right? Or people that are going on road trips, or if your dog is not doing so fantastic pertaining to loose stool and so on and so forth. I think people will use it in terms of loose stool because of the whole, maybe the nausea type of feeling, the pet's not feeling well. But when you read the research, especially when it does pertaining to apoptosis, pre-programmed cell death to cancer cells, it's like the magic of turmeric, the cousin to turmeric, which is ginger.
Exactly.
It just plays so well together with all of the benefits, the detox benefits. Dr. Alex.
I just upped my game by introducing Lion's Main Focus Capsules by Mushroom Revival. It's a quick and easy way to give myself that extra edge that I need throughout the day. The capsules are made with 100% mushroom fruit bodies, and it's easy as just taking 2 capsules with my morning coffee. It improves my focus.
Dr. Alexandra Horowitz, when you were in Africa saving the world, she came on and she was my replacement co-host. There's a published study inside Scoopers on ginger and the benefits of ginger and how it improved the overall health of dogs when incorporated in their diet. Yeah. I love ginger.
Ginger's a warming herb, Rodney, and you can buy it at most grocery stores. I bought this at my local, not organic grocery store. It's organic ginger root. I also buy it because I put it in my smoothie every day, but I also store this in the freezer. This, I would never be able to eat as one person feeding a dog and a cat, the 3 of us. I would not be able to go through this much ginger. So it freezes well, no problem there. But fresh ginger is amazing. And ginger root can be used in so many different ways. If you don't have access to fresh ginger, don't panic. The active ingredient found in ginger is found in supplements as well. And that's the gingerols, the zingers, the zingarones. Zingarone is such a good name, Rodney. I don't know, isn't it? Zingarone? I'm loving it. So if you have access to freshly graded, wonderful, the doses are on the screen. If you don't have access to freshly graded, or if you have an older cat, like Callie, who says absolutely that she does not like the taste of ginger. It's a hot, spicy, it's a warming herb. She's not interested in eating fresh ginger. Homie eats it fine. Then you can buy a supplement, Rodney, and you can buy supplements at your local health food store. They come in an organic. I will wait to. It comes in organic options. You can use ginger teas, and ginger tea, Rodney, is the most dilute form of ginger, but it also could be potentially the easiest to get into animals that have kind of ongoing sensitive stomachs. You can use cooled ginger tea to rehydrate freeze-dried food, dehydrated food, or to add it. You can soak dry food in ginger tea to help reduce GI irritation and nausea. So ginger's one of these all-around amazing herbs that, yes, decreases nausea, yes, decreases indigestion, and we use that lower range, Rodney, 15 to 100 mg per kg for nausea and indigestion. If you have a bile puking dog, that upper range of 100 mg per kg could be really good at suppressing the likelihood of your dog throwing up bile. So what I do, Rodney, if you want to go back to where folks can see, you can buy ginger supplements, and on the back of your ginger supplements at the health food store, at probably your local grocery store, at the back of ginger supplements, it will say right on the capsule what the dose is. And you can buy human ginger. You don't have to buy dog ginger per se. You can just get a human basic ginger supplement. What's most important is that when you read the label, the only thing in the ginger product should be ginger. Sometimes you can get ginger with additional vitamins and minerals, and that's when using human products are not ideal or even appropriate for dogs and cats. If it's ginger, maybe with a little bit of fiber, no problem. If it's ginger with psyllium husk, no problem. If it's ginger with slippery elm, no problem. But you can buy supplements, usually in capsule form, that you can take yourself if you have nausea, vomiting, GI upset, or you can open up the capsule and add it to your dog or cat's food. So supplements are a great, easy way to get ginger into your animals. And you can also use tea. I know that you are a big fan of ginger tea at your house. Is that the form that you're primarily using, Rodney?
Yeah, look, I'm just showing here from my peer-reviewed paper talking about gingerol's antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties, and the bioactives, gingerol, shogaols, if I'm saying that?
Yeah, yep.
Paradol,
Yes,
and there
Shogal.
it is. Zing.
And Zingarones. Zingarone.
It's like that's a mouthful to remember, man. Yes, huge fans of ginger.
If you've ever eaten like raw ginger, you get a little Zingarone. Like you're like, ooh, right? It's a little goes a long way inside Scoopers. And some animals crave it, and some animals are like, absolutely not. If you have an animal that when it comes to raw ginger, they're like, nope, don't panic. You can use a supplement. If your animal says nope to a supplement, you can use ginger tea. Now, we don't use hot tea. We're going to heat the water up, put the tea bag in, and then turn the kettle off. And you're going to steep that tea until it's room temperature, remove the tea bag. So you're not going to serve your animals hot tea for obvious reasons. But if you want to use hot tea for freeze-dried dehydrated food, that's a great way to add some ginger extracts to your food.
Yeah, this is how.
Yeah, lovely.
So this is kind of like the ginger aid that's here in the house. So if I want to rehydrate, let's say Shuby's freeze-dried, I'll use ginger from time to time, right? Fantastic way to bring in some of those bioactives indirectly in rehydrating her freeze-dried meal. So another way to bring it in.
So if you have a dog that's kind of throwing up or pukey bile first thing in the morning, you can put ginger in the food night before, or first thing in the morning, you can do a little snack. If you have a dog or cat that is highly conditioned to eating at a certain time already, that's one of the biggest reasons we see bile puking is not that there's actually any GI dysfunction or pathology going on. One of the biggest reasons we see consistent bile puking is animals have a circadian rhythm and they become highly regimented to this circadian. So if you are feeding your dog or cat at exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, exactly noon Eastern time, and exactly 6 p.m. Eastern time, at about 5:30, especially if you have a really excited animal to eat, your animal knows that food is coming. And what happens? That animal starts releasing hydrochloric acid. They release stomach acid, but the stomach is empty. So they release all of this acidic gastric juices ready to process food, and no food comes in, and then up comes bile. So if you have a bile puker and you're feeding on a schedule, I would say go watch our previous episodes about circadian rhythm and how animals in the wild kitties never caught a mouse at exactly 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So beginning to create some gastrointestinal resiliency is an important piece of helping your animals not be on such a strict schedule that they end up throwing up bile if they're not fed exactly the time that they're used to feeding. So that whole, you've got to feed your animal at a certain time. In one way, following that not amazing advice means that you are creating delicate gutted butterflies in your house, which means if food doesn't come at exactly that time, you could have a bile puker. So feeding a few minutes before, we have episodes on how to build your resilient butterfly animal into a more gut of steel, solid gutted animal. We have, in fact, I did a 2.5 hour episode on that you can find in the file section above, how to build gut resiliency. Feeding a few minutes before you normally would be feeding is a great, or a few minutes after is a great way to begin building in some of that gut resiliency. First thing in the morning, adding a little bit of fresh ginger to a meatball, giving a little snack. You can put some fresh ginger in that yogurt or kefir. Giving that to your dog before its meal is a great way to get ginger in and help diminish bile pukes at the same time.
All right. There's our love for ginger. Belinda says, any concerns with the origin of ginger? I would say anything with a root vegetable, you should always be concerned. It's under the ground, most susceptible to type of pesticides. I know it's not easy for everyone to get organic, but supporting your local farmers market, finding spray-free products. Yeah. Fantastic.
It's also actually really easy to grow. You grew ginger in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. You grew ginger, which it is, if you can grow it yourself, so easy as well. So if you, it's so
already
easy.
There for you. It's a root. It's ready to go. You know what I'm growing now? Loquat seeds.
I'm so fired up about
Actually,
this.
I think you're the one that stuck it in the little planter by the window. So there's so many things that can grow pretty fantastic if that's your thing, if you've got a green thumb.
Yeah.
All right.
Papa Becker, I think my mom and dad are watching. Papa Becker, that is thanks to you. Every single seed that my dad would get, like orange seed, grapefruit seed, he's eaten. If my dad is eating a fresh product and there's a pit or seed in the middle, rest assured, we're not throwing that pit or seed out. He's going to walk around the house and shove it down in. shove it down in a pot of something else to see if it will grow. And I saw my dad do this from the time I was a little girl. He would find seeds and be like, this is the potential for life. We're not going to throw them out. We're going to put them in the earth. And it's shocking the number of seeds that will sprout. I've had banana trees come up at my house. Thank you, Dad. I've had orange trees, grapefruit trees come up at my house because you plant seeds in all of my pots. And then I have these amazing, rare, fun things that come up. Rodney got organic loquats, which is rare. I took those loquat seeds, put them right in a pot, and there we have it.
I was going to go get it.
Loquats. Loving it.
Another time. Okay.
Ooh, next is my favorite.
Yeah, next is my favorite too. You know what? It feels like we talk about this every week, doesn't it? It's like
it does.
Every week. There's got to be some sort of awesome study or something brand new that comes to the longevity fluid, arguably the fountain of youth with most longevity experts. The published research on green tea, drinking green tea in the human space and living longer. It's pretty vast, man. There's a lot of data and research out there that those that drink this live a very long time and all of the wonderful benefits it comes with. Now, I know today, this made your list. You're the one that showed me this tea bag hack that I remember using on my dog once. Then I've made a recommendation to probably every single person in Nova Scotia about this.
Yep.
And they were like, this is the greatest hack I've ever seen. I don't know where you got this from, but holy moly, what this did for a hotspot here was unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so I got this from Barbara Harvey. Barbara Harvey was a wildlife rehabilitation mentor that I have. She owned a human health food store in Horicon, Wisconsin, and she was Horicon's resident raptor rehabilitator. All Barbara Harvey rehabbed was raptors, hawks, eagles, owls, and falcons. Barbara would use this green tea hack that I'm going to show you right now for every wound or sore on raptors, including bumblefoot wildlife rehabbers. She would pack poultices. This is decaf organic green tea. I bought it off of Amazon. You can also get it from your local health food store. You can probably get it at your local grocery store. I know Amazon's controversial. I do use Amazon because I'm a crazy busy person, and oftentimes I can't find what I'm looking for in my little tiny town, so I end up needing to buy it from Amazon. Barbara Harvey taught me how to take green tea bags. For every tea bag, you take an ounce of water. So this is a 4-ounce little adorable glass jar, 4 ounces. I'm going to take 4 tea bags, put it in here, fill it up with pure filtered water, hot. So I'm going to get my kettle boiling, pour it in, and just let these tea bags sit in this container and put it in the fridge. Let them cool off. When you bring it out of the fridge in a few hours, what you have is this very strong infusion of organic decaf green tea that has these medicinal properties, the epigallocatechin gallate EGCGs, as well as flavonoids and antioxidants. And you have this built-in Band-Aid. It's this soothing sachet that can go, Rodney, right on to the hot spot. So at the Raptor Center, a bumblefoot is a big open wound on the bottom of raptors' feet that they get from sitting on the same size perch. We would take all these green tea bags, put them right on the bottom of their foot where the sore is, and bandage them. Shocking to unbandage every 12 hours and watch the improvement of these wounds heal. So that's what gave me the inspiration. I remember Susan, Dr. Recker is watching this morning. Hello, Dr. Recker. Susan and I oftentimes compare notes that when you first graduate from vet school and you first start seeing things that we know are out there, but that we've not seen all varieties of. One of the things that Susan and I both saw, like first week of vet school, were these spreading huge hot spots that were not there in the morning, and then owners come home from work and they've got these big, oozy, pussy, giant weeping sores, and then they come to the veterinarian, and Susan and I, we knew what hot spots were, but we had no idea it could cover the entire body. We see this and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? You got like skin-eating flesh bacteria. And then, our boss would come in and be like, it's a hot spot. And we're like, oh my gosh, why is it so big and weepy and gross and stinky? And then on top of it, because your dog was left alone with its hot spot for 8 hours when you were at work, it's now licking it. You come home, blood, tissue, guts everywhere. It's like, it's just a hot spot. But when you see it, you're like, holy cats, that's a hot spot. This is the fastest, simplest, cheapest, most natural remedy. Do not use oral antibiotics on hot spots. I would say don't even use topical antibiotic on hot spots. Disinfect any wound, cut, sore, or dermatologic abrasion with dilute betadine. Betadine's povidone iodine. You buy it at your local health food store, buy it at Osco, Walgreens, local pharmacy, buy it at your grocery store as well. Disinfect it, and then put one of these tea bags from the fridge, which is cool and soothing, right on top of that hot spot wound or cut. And it's amazing. Change it every 12 hours, disinfect with that betadine, and you have a built-in system of rapid healing ready that works like shockingly fast.
Yeah, I firsthand had that experience. Like I said, when I learned that trick from you, like I feel like a decade ago, every single time I bump into somebody in the park and they got this hot spot and they're like, I got to go get like an antibacterial cream. And so, look, I can see where it's going there, but why not right before you go to buy that, give the tea bag a chance if you haven't gone into like some sort of crazy gross state.
Feel what we feel here. Feel treasure in the islands of Tahiti.
But even if you've gone into crazy gross state, disinfect with povidone iodine. Julie said, would green tea help with my dog with pyoderma? I would say absolutely try it. Disinfect and then absolutely try green tea. Another Inside Scooper says, does it have to be decaf? The reason that I bought decaf is because I also like to give decaf orally. If you have regular caffeinated green tea, you're welcome to use that topically, no problem. You're not going to harm your dog. Even if your dog gets in and licks it, you're totally safe. What is not safe is caffeine for oral ingestion. So if you're going to multitask, if you want to give your dog or cats the benefits of oral green tea, it has to be decaf. So I also prefer organic decaf. Julie said, what is this brand? This is Wee Tea. Wee Tea is the name of the brand. I just bought it on Amazon.
I'll say, look, I'm just gonna flash to my screen right here. And by the way, Inside Scoopers, this is just a quick flash of a website, as you guys can see. So we're looking here at the levels of caffeine. So like, when you look at some herbal and rooibos, decaf, white, there's green tea right there, 15 to 30 milligrams. And you got oolong, black, matcha, and then you get all the way up to coffee. You're talking like 125 to 150 milligrams pertaining to caffeine. Let me say this with a giant caveat for me personally. I'm not afraid of green tea even topically. Internally for my dog, I have decaf here. But when you see the research pertaining to green tea and you see the amount of green tea that's in pet food today, it's not decaf. No one's using decaf green tea, and it's in pet food, right? I realize that there's an issue with caffeine. I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm not saying it's safe to give like Pepsi or Coca-Cola. I'm not saying any of those things. But I'm saying in terms of the levels of caffeine and me diluting it in water, I'm not afraid to give it to my dog. This is an eternal question that a million people ask me. Inside Scoopers, we're having this conversation with you because you're a community of 2.0 pet parents. But when you go public to millions of people, normally I'm talking about decaf at that time because I'm not all of the time talking to 2.0 pet parents that get it, that understand it, right? So that's just me personally. I'm not afraid to use, especially any type of tea in the herbal realms. I'm not afraid of the caffeine levels.
And because it is easy to get organic decaf green, if you are going to be giving green tea regularly to your animals, I would recommend it being decaf because you're going to give more and there's this cumulative effect. The other thing I mentioned though, Rodney, is I wanted to show you something I made for an example.
Oh boy. Sorry, just 1 second.
This is a green tea skin rinse. And I made this morning. take a stock pot, like a big old soup pot, fill it up with filtered water and get it like simmering. I use about 8 tea bags is what I use to a gallon of purified water. Throw those tea bags in and then turn the stove off. And what you have after it cools off is this pour over skin rinse that is amazing for, yes, pyoderma, yes, irritation, yes, poison ivy, yes, rashes, sores, cuts, abrasions, pustules, papules, crusts. You can make this cool rinse after you bathe your dog or cat from the ears back. You can pour it over. It is safe to get it in the eyes, but I have gotten it in, I've used it for my hair before, and it doesn't burn the eyes, but it doesn't feel amazing. So unless there's sores on the head, I would say just use your green tea rinse from collar back on a freshly bathed animal, and you pour this solution on, rub it into their skin, making sure that you're getting where the skin irritation is. So if you've got a dog that has yeast in the armpits and groin, make sure that you're getting that green tea on there, and then towel dry, don't rinse. This is an amazing way to deliver antioxidants directly to the skin, Rodney. And then there's this ongoing effect of green tea doing its magical antioxidant free radical scavenging for days after that bath. So it's a really lovely way to treat full body infections. If you're like, would have to, my dog is so covered with spots or a staph infection where there's 29 little things and you're not going to do 29 tea bags on a dog, do this. Just do a pour over, bathe your dog, and then pour this on. It's such a great way to provide instant soothing relief and avoid oral antibiotics.
Listen, by the way, here's that article I was talking about in the pet food industry for nutraceutical dog and cat other pet product ingredients. Look, there it is right there. Green tea extract. There's no decaf there. You go right down to the bottom. You'll even read, like, it's primarily used in a lot of places like Europe, but right here, while green tea is not technically permitted in U.S. pet foods, there are a number of dog and cat diets that contain the ingredient on the label with all of the myriad of benefits that it has. And in fact, there's published research and published studies that I've shared a whole host of times pertaining to, sorry, let me go back to my, too many windows open. There's a whole host of studies pertaining to green tea in dogs. It's extract where you get yourself in trouble. Anything extracted is where you get yourself into trouble, because you have the most condensed version of something.
Yes.
We're talking about a tea bag
of food.
That's right. Come on.
That's right. So I am not a fan, Rodney. There's green tea extracts that people take for themselves. I'm not a fan of giving green tea extract as a supplement to pets at all. Just use the real thing. Inside Scooper asked, Angelo asked, what's the decaffeination method? The decaffeination method, Angela, that you want to focus on, this is CO2. This particular brand is what I recommend, which is carbon dioxide. It's called CO2 decaffeinated. It's the safest, chemical-free. There can be some solvents used for the decaffeination method, but if you get CO2 decaffeinated method, you're safe.
You're completely fine. I was actually just quite recently listening to a few podcasts by a bunch of microbiologists talking about the decaf method. Purists, enthusiasts will never touch anything decaf because of course, extrapolation process. It's one more step. Yeah, the denaturing process of something. But thankfully, over the years, when you go back to how they used to decaffeinate coffee, like they were using some toxic ingredients. Like I'm talking in the 40s and 50s to try to make a decaf product. But yeah, today it's definitely a heck of a lot safer.
Sherry says, is the rinse good for dogs without sores? Yes, Sherry. I put it in my hair just because I want antioxidant. I just am just adding antioxidants to my hair. So I do that rinse for myself. You could put it on healthy, dermatologically healthy animals as well to just increase antioxidants, no problem. Leslie says, can you put it in a spray bottle and nail those areas? Maybe the perineal area, armpits and groin, of course. I will tell you that green tea has a pretty good bacterial fungal party, even in the refrigerator, guys. I would not keep tea in the fridge more than 48 hours. You got to pitch it because you'll start to see a little party of bacteria happening there. So when I make my basically nature's band-aids, Rodney, when I'm getting ready to apply these to a hot spot, I will do 4 at a time because I'm going to switch it twice a day. So I will do 4, which is going to get me 2 days, and that's all the longer I'm going to want to keep this in the fridge because there's no preservative in it. So I'm making it, stir it in the fridge. It's not.
I just upped my game by introducing Lion's Mane Focus Capsules by Mushroom Revival. It's a quick and easy way to give myself that extra edge that I need throughout the day. The capsules are made with 100% mushroom fruit bodies, and it's easy as just taking 2 capsules with my morning coffee. It improves my focus.
During in the fridge, it's nice and cool. When I lift it out, there'll be water. I squeeze it out, and it becomes this really soothing nature's Band-Aid that you can put right on your dog. Now, did you see... Oh, we're going to see it with the Manuka honey. If you're wondering how to affix this to your dog, I'll show you the patches that I use when we go over Manuka honey.
Our next up is maybe hands down the most controversial cult. I shouldn't say cult, but cult-like following. I don't mean that in a disrespectful manner if you're watching this, but I say cult-like following in terms of like pop culture, rock bands sort of theme. I mean, the love for this next product. You have people like that will get the tattoo, the backpack, the water bottle.
I think that colloidal silver brands and techniques is as inflammatory as multi-level essential oil companies. Like holy wars, right?
We tried to touch on this in 2021, and it did not go so well because at that time there was a frenzy of people using it at that time for COVID, if you remember. And then the FDA had to step in. I remember the New York Times wrote an article about it. Please stop drinking colloidal silver to rid yourself of COVID. There was this big thing where people were drinking the heck out of it. Boy, it's really controversial in terms of, I think, more or less of ingestion than anything else. It's like the argument to a microbiologist when you talk to a microbiologist, if I'm drinking something that could potentially in excess wipe out my microbiome, is it the best idea? Now we're talking access. We're talking access. The other question is the blue guy that's been I wish I had those slides here. Here, look, I'm sure I can look it up while we're talking. But if you're not familiar with this, Inside Scoopers, the man who drank enough colloidal silver and went, hold on, let me see here. Is he there? Yeah, there he is.
I think I can
right
do a picture too.
Yeah, there he is here. This poor man here. Who apparently.
So try not to do that. Okay, is that really what he looks like?
Look, he's in Wikipedia. The man got himself in Wikipedia. Harrison was a fair-skinned freckle early in his 1990s. His skin turned blue after he began taking homemade colloidal silver treatment and rubbing it on his skin, he says. My God, he went blue. So...
Oh, look, how interesting. B just said that my earbloods clonked out. Okay, just a second, B. I'm going to fix it.
I can hear you, too.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, you sound good. I hear you now.
Well, but apparently it's the wrong setting. Let me try again.
Shadon said that's a very old story. It's a very old story. And to go back to how we even got on this darn topic, there was a lot of warning people about this. Let me just start off with this conversation. The reason why I even preface this, Papa Smurf gentleman, as Nicole says, was what was going on here in Nova Scotia.
Not smart is right.
What was going on here in Nova Scotia, because of the benefits of it, there was folks that I was talking to, which I know one's an inside scooper, so I want to keep the story respectful, who was adding a quarter cup a day to her dog's water bowl. And then we did a microbiome test over at Animal Biome. And the folks at Animal Biome almost fell over when they got their results back to that dog's microbiome. And there's group forums on Facebook suggesting to put a quarter cup in your dog's bowl of water. I'll let you tell people not to do that. And it totally decimated that dog's microbiome. But that's not to take away from the benefits of this this compound that people swear by and live by. I'm talking about how to take something good and make it extremely bad, which you can do with almost anything.
Which you can, but I think it's really important. And just so you know, this Argyria, the turning blue, if you overdose your dog or cat on colloidal silver, it doesn't happen with dogs or cats because people have done it. Thank goodness your dog is not going to turn blue. But in one way, I almost wish that dogs and cats would have Argyria, this turning blue effect. What the blue is it's an accumulation of silver, which is a metal of silver particles in the dermatologic tissues. So that man's skin is, I don't want to say toxic, but is maxed out with silver particles being deposited in his skin. And I don't know this to be true. We know that argyria, this term of turning blue when you eat too much silver, we know that it's not reversible. I think the question is, I almost believe, Rodney, that it's the body trying to excrete. One of the ways that we detoxify is through the skin. And I'm wondering if this turning blue is the body trying to expel or get this level of metals out of the system, and it's trying to push it out the skin. Dogs and cats don't have that. So the inside scooper that was giving her dog a quarter cup of colloidal silver a day, even when you go online, you'll see fire, people saying, I drink it I drink a cup a day, I drink 2 cups a day, I've done it 20 years. Here's my take as a doctor. You can, and part of this argument, Rodney, is that there is this, it's a little like homemade dog foods. When there is a homemade option, things can go wonky really fast. There are homemade colloidal silver makers where you can make your own colloidal silver. And this is where, think about if you were to be able to make your own antibiotics at home, and then you start taking them, and you don't really know exactly how.
Carmex Lip Care sure has it all. Daily moisturizing? You betcha. Weather protection? Definitely. Big flavors in mini tubes? Aren't they fun? What about new 12-hour advanced repair? We said we had it all, right? Carmex does the job.
Really know exactly how many milligrams of the antibiotic you're taking, and you don't really know exactly what bugs or potential pathogens you're treating. That's where things can go south quickly, and we see that happen with animals regularly. So my take is this: colloidal silver is a potent antimicrobial. It's antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral. If you have bacteria, fungus that you want to get rid of, you would want to make sure that the prescribed medication, including natural things, are the correct match for what you're trying to mitigate or get rid of. And the biggest fallacy I see online anyway is that pet parents believe that colloidal silver can discern between good bugs, like healthy, beneficial bacteria, and bad bacteria, like E. coli or Salmonella or Listeria. And unfortunately, that much has been proven incorrect. That yes, colloidal silver is a potent antibiotic, but it can't discern between the good guys and the bad guys. It just goes in and kills off bacteria. So if you have a raging infection, could you use colloidal silver to go in and just wipe out everything? Sure. And there are some times I've done that. Absolutely, I have done that. But just as Rodney was mentioning, when you recheck those animals' microbiomes after you have used either low potency colloidal silver on a daily basis or a round of high potency colloidal silver for 7 to 10 days, the microbiome is obliterated. It's just gone. It's like using a round of metronidazole. It just takes out the good guys and the bad guys. So when you read online, people say, "Oh, it's only going to treat the bad guys." It's just not true. So what I would say is, if your pet needs an antimicrobial, colloidal silver is a potent one. But would you ever wake up every day and automatically take a round of antibiotics? No, and I don't recommend doing that for dogs or cats as well. So it's a highly controversial topic. Yeah. The other thing, Rodney, that is controversial is there's different types of colloidal silver. So I have a slide, hopefully, that you can see where, so Laura says it's topical. Okay. Yes, Laura. And that's exactly what I'm going to go over now, is that even oral's okay, but I would say you want to talk to your proactive functional medicine or colloidal silver educated veterinarian about using it orally, because the question would be, what are we using it for? How much are we giving? And what are our expectations in terms of rebuilding the microbiome after we use a natural antibiotic or antifungal? It has the same effect. How are we going to restore the system after we've used this medication that provides significant insult to the microbiome? Topical is a whole different story. And in this situation, I am recommending topical colloidal silver for ear infections, cut sores, abrasions, pyoderma, hot spots. Colloidal silver can be really good at helping the body fight external infections and no risk in terms of scary overdosing, thank goodness. So Rodney, the 3 types of colloidal silver, the first one is called true colloidal silver, which is sometimes called atomic silver as well. The nanoparticle size are under 20 nanometers, which means it's very tiny specks of silver that are actually so tiny that they stay in suspension. And Rodney, that's actually the definition of a colloid, are particles that are so small that nothing filters out to the bottom. When you see colloidal silver that is prepared correctly, there is not a sediment on the bottom. It looks like water, to be honest.
Right.
It just looks like plain water. Now, colloidal silver is more stable than the second type of silver products on the market that are called ionic silver. Silver ions are dissolved in pure water. So that's the difference, Rodney, between true colloidal silver, where the silver particles are suspended. Ionic silver, actually the silver ions are dissolved in water. So it's silver particles that have actually lost an electron and now they have a positive charge. So this particular type of product that you can buy is less stable because it has a positive charge. Now, proponents of ionic silver will say, but yes, it's more bioavailable. And I would agree with that. Because it is positively charged, you do get better absorbability. If the goal is for you to absorb a colloidal silver product into the bloodstream, you could hypothetically get better bioavailability with the ionic product. But Rodney, here's the downside, and what science has demonstrated, that because it's positively charged, it can react with other things in the body, including hydrochloric acid. So if you or your pets ingest an ionic silver product, it will react with hydrochloric acid and form silver chloride in the gut, which means it's not bioavailable to treat the infection that you wanted to give it for. So if you're going to use it internally, I don't recommend an ionic product because it can bind with stomach acid and then it's basically ineffective. The third type of product that you'll read about on the market are called silver hydrosols, Rodney, and it's a blend of the 2 of the products above. It's 50% colloidal and 50% ionic, and then they blend it together and it's called silver hydrosol. Kind of the theory behind that is of the blend of both worlds, the best of both worlds, put them together and you have a silver hydrosol. The most important thing, Rodney, about silver, and one of the reasons that I am not a proponent of homemade colloidal silver, unless you're using it for basic external applications, is because you really don't know how potent that silver is. The way that we measure the potency or how many parts per million is in a silver solution is with this really expensive piece of equipment called an atomic absorption spectroscopy, which shows the parts per million of silver solution. And inside scoopers, you should say, well, who cares how potent it is? Because, Rodney, and I think there should be, and let me just touch on the fact that homemade silver solutions, I have seen big chunks on the bottom. My clients have brought in the homemade silver solutions and there's just chunkies floating on the bottom. No bueno. You shouldn't have chunks precipitating out of your colloidal silver solution. That means that the particle size is way too big to be a benefit. You can get a change from a very clear solution, Rodney, to a light brown color. It's called the Tyndall effect. When those particles become over 20 nanometers in size, there can be this reflective thing that happens called the Tyndall reflection of silver, where it reacts with light, and it causes the solution to become a brown. So clear solutions are always ionic. Colloidal solutions can range from clear to maybe light brown, but above all, there shouldn't be cloudy, and you shouldn't see any chunkies or sediment at the bottom of the container. The reason I like standardized commercially available colloidal silvers, unless you're just treating the body, with a homemade colloidal silver solution that your neighbor made and gave to you. If you have a nail fungus, great. You're welcome to try your neighbor's homemade colloidal silver recipe. If you are specifically trying to treat, let's say, MRSA, you are trying to avoid really aggressive oral or IV antibiotics for your dog or cat, your vet has said your animal has been diagnosed with methicillin resistant staph, or your animal has an antibiotic resistant skin infection, that is when I would not do any type of homemade silver. You've got to know what you're buying, and you have to know that what parts per million that product is running. So a low part per million is less than 20, and that'll say right on the label. A medium parts per million are 20 to 100, and that really is for those topical applications like wound care, topical, like if you do have MRSA, that's great. And then the high potency parts per million are between 250 and 500 parts per million. That really is purchased through veterinarians. It's used a lot for industrial and agricultural applications. It's used, there can be high risk associated with ultra high parts per million. So some common brands, Rodney, that you'll see, and hopefully there's a brand, it's Coopers, yeah. So when you go to the health food store, the two things you're going to be looking for is both the type of silver, so either ionic or colloidal, and then you're going to be looking at the parts per million. So those lower parts per million, 10, may be totally fine. I like to use the lower parts per million if you're going to directly treat the eyes. So if you have an animal with conjunctivitis, a little goopy snot, a little crud, debris building up, those lower parts per million are perfect. You can safely and effectively apply it to a cotton ball and dab around the eyes. You can get colloidal silver, low potency right in the eye. You are safe and it's totally effective. So low potency for eyes, you can, if you have a recurrent bacterial or fungal infection in the skin or ears, you can totally try lower potency. But if your vet has cultured your dog's skin and your vet says your dog has got horrible antibiotic resistant skin infection, and you say, I really want to try topicals first, you're going to move all the way down to that Argent 23, because that's pharmaceutical grade colloidal silver that has been standardized to be the same 23 parts per million. So every bottle that you buy, it is going to be that same potency. And if you have an aggressive infection, you have to treat it with high potency colloidal silver. If you have a low grade skin infection or not a big deal, or maybe yeast, we have to remember that yeast, all of our dogs and cats have yeast. We have yeast on our skin. Yeast is not this raging pathogenic fungal infection. Yeast, if you have a dog or cat with yeast overgrowth, that's their immune system saying, I'm not okay. So yeast, I'm not freaked out about. Lower potency silvers can be quite effective against basic yeast infections. However, if you've got a raging, aggressive, pathogenic fungal infection going on in the skin, then you're going to use those higher parts per million. So the higher parts per million, the more expensive the product is, just like Manuka honey, which we're going to talk about next. The cheaper colloidal silver products, if you have a basic eye infection or a little ear infection, the cheaper and the lower part per million products will be just as effective. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That was a really good breakdown of colloidal silver.
Okay.
Holy moly. It's a mouthful. Sorry for throwing you in that situation. Guess what? We blew over.
Well, it's super confusing.
It is super confusing. We blew over by 14 minutes. I mean, obviously, one could blame my periodic egg explanation, which...
Well, it probably was the colloidal silver explanation, but I think really important. Really important.
Very important. I'm sure more people signed up today and tuned in for colloidal silver than they did the periodic egg, but I stand by the periodic egg.
Both are valuable. And if you have an extra 30 minutes, you can make a periodic egg, and you can download our awesome admin, Renee, made you guys a Manuka honey cheat sheet. And the reason that Manuka honey cheat sheets are important is that this is not Manuka honey. These two are Manuka honey. When you buy Manuka honey at the health food store or online, it's so confusing, Rodney. It's super confusing because, first of all, they have all these acronyms. You don't know what they mean. And then they have all these numbers. It's just generally quite confusing. So I'm going to get to a breakdown of that in a minute. But first, I want to ask you, have you experienced the benefits of Manuka honey, Rodney?
Gosh, I have so many Manuka honey stories. So many inside scoopers that I've seen here. I mean, there's a ton of inside scoopers that are from my hometown here in Nova Scotia. Oh yeah, by the way, too, shout out, I didn't tell you this, Karen, but I saw the incredible, legendary Evan Doggett that, you can't see it, but it's right there. He got me a birthday present. It's hanging there. Him and I know what it is. It's going to be very hard to see. I'll try to get it later throughout the show.
That's lovely, Evan. Evan, I'm excited
Yeah,
for my birthday present.
It's actually a gas mask. I'm not sure.
Oh,
We're gonna figure out how to use it.
is there something? Are you having a gas leak, Rodney? Evan, what's? Goodness sakes!
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, I saw him last week at the park, and he's like, "I got your birthday present for you."
Wow.
Yeah, I got to figure out how to use it, but I'll use it for something.
I'm all about being prepared.
I'll use it.
Nicely done.
I'll use it for something. Okay, that said, I've had so many Manuka honey stories pertaining to animals with, never mind. I shouldn't say never mind. I know we're going to be talking about a lot of topical issues, but let's talk about. I told you this story, and you told me what to do here in this situation, and you saved this dog's life. And she's an inside scooper, and I won't bring up her name, but I will share this story quickly. She was one that was using a lot of antibiotics in her lifetime with her Samoyed, beautiful Samoyed, and the dog just kept getting these recurrent infections, and so they used a lot of antibiotics over the years, and then developed MRSA.
Yep.
And this dog got an infection in its ear. Inside scoopers, in layman terms, imagine now there's no antibiotic at this point. We become antibiotic resistant to the bacteria in the ear. And so the dog is a geriatric dog, and it was either a couple options.
And that's a scary thing. Rodney, that's a scary thing. As veterinarians, and we've got lots of vets in the group, veterinarians, there's nothing scarier than getting that culture report back and having to call your client and say, we have no known medications to treat this infection. Like, it makes my hair, I've got heebie-jeebie goosebumps now.
Yeah.
Because that's a scary thing. In the ear, it means you get into that middle ear and it gets in, your dog at best will lose its hearing, and at bad can go south and become septic, right? Just scary stuff. Super scary stuff.
So we can remove the dog's eardrums, so the dog will be deaf. I mean, at 13, that's an option. We can euthanize the dog pertaining to quality of life, but there's no other options. And I remember telling you this story, and you jumped and you said, has she ever tried Manuka honey? She did a Manuka honey colloidal silver combination and saved the dog's life.
Brilliant.
And the dog still has its eardrums, and the dog can still hear. She's in the inside scoop. I won't, she wants to, it's up to her if she wants to reveal herself. She definitely doesn't have to, but good on her. 2.0 pet parent took it into her own hands and survived MRSA, right? It's it's an incredible story. It was an incredible recommendation by you, and Manuka has been in your repertoire for many years. I remember it was part in the olden days. A lot of internet enthusiasts used it in turmeric paste. To get turmeric paste, turmeric paste, a lot of people just think it was pertaining to coconut, pepper, and turmeric and water. But when you wanted to get it to externally to be on something that you're trying to rid, Manuka honey was the component that got it to stick. And my gosh, I've got so many images of before and after of some like gnarly tumors, some gnarly growths that Manuka has been part of. I know it's sorry, I hijacked now your love for Manuka and that information you bestowed on me that I've been able to share with others, and then just the success stories are phenomenal.
So good. A couple of questions. Nicole says ozone is great for antibiotic resistant skin infections. Nicole, it's amazing. I love ozone, but you have to have an ozone generator, ozone maker. But yes, I totally agree. Ozone is an awesome option. Many functional medicine, holistic wellness veterinarians have ozone, so you don't have to buy an expensive unit. But I totally agree. Ozone is amazing. For anything that's resistant, ozone will still kill it. It's amazing. So a couple different things that I think is important, Rodney, to go over when it comes to the confusing world of Manuka honey. First, it's in the same category as olive oil, where there's a ton of knockoffs, a ton of fake Manuka, a ton of people charging $100 for a product that has like high fructose corn syrup in it. So you do want to trust the brand and the manufacturers that you are using. Thanks, Renee, for posting the Band-Aids. I'm going to get to that in a minute. And Shadon says, I wish it wasn't sticky. Shadon, that's exactly why right below your comment, Renee posted the link to the colloid Band-Aids. This is the problem with Manuka honey. If you're using it on yourself, it's sticky. It gets all over your clothes. It's just annoying. That whole tackiness is just annoying. So I buy these colloid Band-Aids. You can buy them from Walgreens, you can buy them on Amazon, but these Band-Aids, you'll just same exact protocol as hotspot protocol, disinfect with dilute betadine, then apply a thin layer of Manuka honey, and then because you don't want your dog to lick it off, and you don't want your cat to, you will have applied it, and then your kitty goes and lays on your couch, and pretty soon you have Manuka honey all over your couch, and then your dog comes in and licks the couch so there's a hole. That has happened in my life. To prevent this cycle of, oh my gosh, this is sweet, and then you have sweet stamps all over your house, and then you have dogs licking the sweet stamps all over your house. To prevent all that, you can pop these beautiful colloid bandages over the top of either your green tea bag or your layer of Manuka honey, and it protects the wound, it keeps the wound covered, and also prevents your animal from licking it, but it keeps the product up against the point of contact where the infection, sore, irritation, or dermatologic abrasion is. And it is, oh, thank you. Laura says, best Band-Aids ever. They are the best Band-Aids ever. I'm right there with you. So I do like to cover with Manuka honey, unless it's in an area where the animal's not going to track it all over and or they can't lick it off. If you have a wound that's dead set at the top of your animal's head, no problem. You don't have to cover it up. But everywhere else, you usually end up wanting to cover it up. So the second biggest question, Rodney, is what's up with all these different numbers? Like, what does it mean? And what do I do with this information? So again, thank you to our awesome admin, Renee. You have a Manuka honey cheat sheet that is at the top of the file section, ready and waiting for you, Inside Scoopers. It has a lot more information that I'm going to cover today. So if you want to do a deep dive in exactly what all of these words mean, then please download your free Manuka honey cheat sheet, and you will be able to follow along. In essence, Rodney, there's these grading systems for honey, and the two most common grading systems are the top two here, which is unique Manuka factor, UMF, and MGO, which is the methyl glyoxyl level. And methyl glyoxyl is the antibacterial property that's found in Manuka honey. So you can measure that antimicrobial level